Welcome to my next MondAI. My today guest is Andrew Blair-Stanek, professor of Maryland School of Law. Andrew, thank you very much for joining us here.
Thank you very much for having me.
We met in Prague at the conference of International Association of AI and Law. You presented there a fabulous paper on GPT-3 and how it performs statutory reasoning. Why is it important to investigate this problem?
Statutory reasoning is a fundamental part of any sort of artificial intelligence applied to law. Statutes and statute-like documents like contracts and government regulations are really fundamental legal documents that lawyers have to work with. So we decided to test how well GPT-3 could actually do in reasoning over a statute. So I think statutory reasoning is very important for any sort of artificial intelligence in law approach over any country, any subject matter. We are particularly interested in tax law because we ultimately want to use artificial intelligence to find loopholes in tax law, if we can get that working for US federal tax law, which may take a couple of years or even a decade. We plan to obviously then go and try to extend this to help tax authorities in US states and in other countries. So that is our motivating goal, but statutory reasoning is much more general than that. And so we wrote a bunch of benchmarks and tests to see if GPT-3 could reason properly over statutes, and we found it was a bit lacking.
Okay, but you found that it performed better than previous data sets, but still some errors appear. What are they?
So you're absolutely right. GPT-3, and by GPT-3, I mean Text DaVinci 003, the most powerful model that OpenAI had for GPT-3. It certainly performed a lot better than BERT-based models, without a doubt. BERT-based models were getting perhaps a little bit better than a coin toss. Obviously, a coin toss on average would get 50% of the answers correct, and the best previous was about 57% for simple questions involving a simplified version of the US tax code. We were expecting it to get something near 100%. There was a lot of hype around GPT-3 and how some people even think it's the start of a threat to humanity, that our species will be extinct as a result of this. We were somewhat surprised to find that it performed, depending on the task, depending on how we prompted it, its performance was in the range of getting 70% of the questions right. So much better than a coin toss, much better than the previous best BERT-based results, but far short of the 90% or 100% that the hype had led us to expect. So we decided to go and dig a little bit deeper, wondering, well, maybe GPT-3 has seen all of the US tax code when it scraped the internet. And so we decided to create some synthetic statutes made up using English nonsense words, things that really don't exist and had never appeared. And we arranged them in a way that defined these nonsense terms in terms of other nonsense terms. And we can be entirely confident that these synthetic statutes made up using a fairly straightforward method of these nonsense words and defining the nonsense words had never been in GPT-3's training set. And it performed rather poorly on those. The bigger, not surprisingly, the bigger and the more complicated these synthetic statutes were, the worse was GPT-3's performance. And it got about 75% accuracy on very simple statutes with one nonsense term defined in terms of two nonsense terms, each of which in turn is defined in terms of another two nonsense terms. So a total of 7 nonsense terms, a very short statute, and only got 75% accuracy, and it went straight down from there.
How do you envision the role of AI in legal field in nearest future?
I think that artificial intelligence will be able to help lawyers with some limited, fairly well-defined tasks. I don't think that, even leaving aside questions of ability to reason over statutes, judgment is just one of those human attributes that I don't expect large language models ever to take over. I think the best analogy is something that a number of air forces around the world have been working on. Obviously, air forces have very expensive jets that have a human pilot, and they also have drones that have no pilot. And what they've been working on, apparently, is having each fighter pilot have one drone that acts as a wingman, sort of comes along, takes off right after or right before, and follows around the human pilot in their plane, but also takes orders from the human pilot. I think that artificial intelligence in law will be something analogous to that, where a lawyer uses artificial intelligence to maybe catch things that they didn't catch, or to help double check some of their research or their results, or maybe improve the writing. But I don't think it will ever fully replace the many of the tasks that human lawyers do. I think it'll be good for double checking and helping to write, helping to research, but not taking over big chunks of what a lawyer does day to day.
Okay, thank you very much for this discussion. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.